Welcome to Teco Guide, the only app designed to help you navigate your college and career journey in the quickest and most affordable way. This podcast is brought to you by EdTechity, dedicated to opening doors to higher education and career opportunities for all.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Teco Guide podcast. I'm your host, Karina Gutierrez, and welcome to our academic and career path series, where we'll be igniting your motivation through conversations with career professionals talking about their storytelling and chismes. Today, we have a very special guest, a fellow first-gen student, the definition of boss woman, a Latina queen, and a real-life professional juggler. I would like to welcome CEO and co-founder here at Inspirame, María Medrano. Hey María, how's it going?
Hi, Karina. Thank you. I love that intro. I'm going to have to invite you anytime I go back on stage. Thank you for the energy and for the kind intro.
Thank you. So I think a lot of people have seen your face everywhere. You know, you are part of the Latinas in high tech, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I did want to start off by saying, you know, welcome. And personally for me, it's so inspiring to have someone who looks like me be in such a high position in not just tech, but creating your own business, your own company. But before we go into that, let's start from the beginning. So where are you from? Where'd you go to high school? You know, where'd you grow up? Where do you call home, pretty much?
Yeah, so I call home, I would say, the Bay Area. I was born and raised in San Francisco, California. I was born in the Mission District, right in the heart of it, at the intersection of Army Street, St. Luke's Hospital. Spent lots of my years there because that's just where familia was at. At about the age of 14, 15, my parents had a big dream of buying their first home. And the only way they could actually afford to do that was by moving to a small town that we used to call it a small town. It's not so small anymore. Vallejo, California, which is about 30 miles east of San Francisco. And so that is where I ended up going to high school. Attended a little high school there and was able to also then go to college from that high school, just given the programs that they offered there with local universities like San José State University. So when folks ask like where I'm from, I say through and through the Bay Area. I mean, like I said, in San Francisco, Vallejo, I lived in San Jose for a little bit as well, but through and through the entire Bay Area is what I consider home.
Wow. It's so funny because anybody that I meet from the Bay, whether they live in Sacramento, live somewhere else, that's one thing. You can take the person out of the Bay, but you can't take the Bay out of the person. So
yes,
that's so
it's very
funny.
true.
Yeah. So earlier I said you're a professional juggler. You know, we've discussed in the past a little bit about your experiences through college. And so for those of y'all out there, if you have not came across Maria's LinkedIn, Maria has a bachelor's degree in business, or you started your bachelor's at Sonoma State, right? And then
I did.
Went to SJSU or San Jose State University. So can you talk a little bit more about your educational experiences? You know, what was your experience like?
Yeah, so I was the first in my family to graduate from high school and to explore this idea of going to college. My mom was a huge advocate around education. She herself, you know, she had me when she was in high school. And so she, at Panzazos, like we said, barely finished high school. And so for her big dream for me was to be able to graduate high school without having a baby and perhaps even having a car and then being able to go to college. Like that was going to be like a huge, goal for her. And so I heard that from her every single day, like the importance and more than that, just the fact that I could do it. She was constantly reminding me that I was smart, that I could do whatever I wanted to do. And so for me, I fell in love with the feeling of making my mom feel proud. Like I remember many times coming home from school with a test score or with, you know, receiving some kind of certificate or being part of the honor roll, and my mom going with so much pride of, you know, my daughter and all those things that really just culminated for me throughout my entire K through 12. I loved school. I loved studying. I loved going to school. It wasn't always easy, that's for sure, right? Especially when I got into high school, where it should have been really easy for me because I really love school. But when you start turning 14, 15, 16, at least in my family, comes a responsibility of having to work. So at that young age, the work aspect was introduced, and not because I love the idea of going to work and going to school. It's just what we did, right? In order to kind of make ends meet at home. So I worked while I was going to school in high school as a waitress. So that was anywhere from 25 to 30 hours per week easily.
In high school?
And that in high school.
Wow.
In high school. It was, working Mondays, working Tuesdays, Wednesdays I'd get off, working Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And then Sunday I would have off. And Sundays was my pulga day and going to church. Like those are the two. If I could do those two things on Sunday and have enough time to stop by La Tapatia to pick up, a paleta, that was like enough energy to get me going for the new week starting on Monday, right? So those are the things that really help motivate me. And so because I was working so much in high school and also going to school in high school, I didn't have time to do the traditional high school things, right? I really was bored of high school. I didn't like high school. I was there to meet the requirements, to take the classes, to be able to apply to go to college. That was my end game. And if anything, I kept telling myself, I can't wait to get out of high school to go to college, because in my mind, college was going to be this amazing place. I think often to the stories my dad tells me, that cuando le platicaban about going to the United States de Mexico, él se imaginaba que all the streets were de oro, like it was going to be immaculate and clean. And so when he came to the U.S. and he realized, where are the streets? There's no red carpet, there's no gold. Tienes que venir a trabajar duro. I think that was the reality I had when I ended up in college, because although I wanted to go to college and I was preparing to go to college, I didn't really know how to get to college. And so that's where I kind of ran into what I say, just some mentors and sponsors, which were teachers of mine who knew that I had a passion for teaching. And because of that, offered me this opportunity to participate in a very unique high school program called the Teacher Cadet Program, where not only I was taking college classes and getting units from Sonoma State, I was also getting stipends from the 9th grade all the way to 12th grade to go work at local elementary schools. And during the school day, I would go for an hour and two and help tutor some students or just be a teacher aide. And then the summer months, I would get, 3 months, a $500 stipend, which back then was a lot of money, right, for the summer, to go work alongside teachers. And so that's what helped me get to college, because when high school was over, I got my acceptance letter and said, you're officially accepted and enrolled at Sonoma State with these conditions, which one of the conditions was completely, being successful in completing that teacher cadet program. And I think it was like passing a geometry class or some math class that I was taking at the time. I was so excited, Karina, about getting that letter that I remember when I got the letter in the mail, I drove back to the high school to show my high school counselor. Her name was Dr. Leonard. And I remember her like it was yesterday. And I went to her office to show her, I said my pendeja, and just show her the letter, like, what does this mean? I knew what it meant, but I wanted her to say, what does this mean? And I remember her looking at me and saying, oh, this says that you're conditionally accepted to Sonoma State if you finish your math class. And I remember feeling this small, and I was thinking, I'm like a good student. Like I've never gotten into trouble. I always went to class. I always did everything. And even then, the doubt from, counselors and those around who put us all in like certain boxes of like what they thought you would do, because that's what they felt you were capable of. But that's when like a light switch went on of like, okay, I'm going to prove to her that I am going to college. And that's literally how I ended up at Sonoma State. So it wasn't really by choice per se of like doing the research and figuring out where I wanted to go, but it was that door of like, okay, it's open. I'm going to walk through it. I'm going to move on campus. I'm going to start doing the college experience. And to my surprise, college was nothing like I expected. There was no rosy doors. There was no warm welcoming. It was more so like, well, can you really be here? Like, how many units do you think you can really take? And, students in the classroom making really rude comments. But it was just that fire inside of like, no, like I'm going to be here and I'm going to finish no matter what it takes. So that was the beginning of my college career. And then fast forward, 2 years in, realizing that I needed to change my major. That's how I ended up at San José State. to really go into business because I had to work full time as well while I was going to school in college.
So at Sonoma State, you started off trying gearing to be a teacher or an educator?
Yes, I was doing general ed, obviously the first 2 years, but liberal studies because that was my passion. I really wanted to be in the classroom. So they were my heroes in my community. But what I was doing while I was in college is I was taking a full load. I was taking 18 units my first year, working 15 to 20 hours, per week on campus as a receptionist at the tutorial center. And then I picked up waitressing shifts at the Olive Garden. So I was just constantly busy. And I remember being really scared about the fact that, oh my gosh, I'm working these 2 jobs. And it's not like I hadn't done it before, but for me, college was such a much more bigger opportunity than high school. That I remember at the time, one of my cousins, second cousin, so actually son of one of my mom's first cousins, was going to graduate school in San Francisco from San Diego to become an attorney.
Oh, okay.
And he was the only other person that I knew that was going to college, and everyone talked about him. And it was like, oh, he had, what was his name? Willie. Willie's going to move to San Francisco because he's going to become an attorney. And I was like, wow, he already got his bachelor's out. He was going after, the next degree. And again, being with family on the weekends, we were at a family party and he heard about me. He's like, you're going to college. Cause he was like, wow, I'm not the only one now. You're going to go to college. And I remember telling him, yeah, but I have to work. I'm working all these hours. I don't get to be part of the clubs. And I'm just nervous about it. Am I going to have enough time to study? Because I knew for each class I took, the more units, the more hours of study that equates to. And I remember he looked at me straight in my face and just said, you're going to be just fine. He goes, it's actually going to work in your favor because you're working so much and you're going to school. You're only going to have a certain amount of hours that are free to study, which means that you won't get into trouble. You won't go out drinking and you won't go out partying. Just focus on going to school, getting work done and delivering what you need to deliver and everything will be fine. And so again, since he's the only person that I literally knew in my family that actually had gone to and through college, I was like, I'm going to listen to him. And my mom was there. She's like, and my mom kept talking about him. So she's like, listen to whatever he says. He knows what he's talking about. So that's what led me to then go to the business route and end up at San Jose State.
Oh, interesting. And so then at San Jose State, you finished, and your next, I guess, journey was now your master's. And so can you talk about those experiences? Because you have 2 masters, right? So
I do. And I'll have to say that at San Jose, I was there for 2.5 years. I think maybe even 3 years, but I finished at San Jose State and graduated my bachelor's pregnant with my daughter. So it was not, like I said, it was not something I planned. Never did I say, oh, I'm going to have a baby along the way. I got pregnant of my daughter. And I remember when I found out that I was pregnant, I would think I was 8 classes short from my degree. And I crammed them all in because I'm like, I cannot bring my baby into this world and not have my degree. Because in my mind, it wasn't that I was fearful I wasn't going to get it done, but I just didn't want to divide my time that way. I already knew I had to work. I already knew I had school, and I knew I had a baby coming. I wanted to make sure that I could give my baby my full attention as well. And so when I walked the stage, I was 7 months pregnant with my daughter. And so I finished with her. I remember there was, I think, one more class that I needed that they added at the end. And I went back and I took it at the junior college immediately. And I would take Maggie with me to class. She was 3 months, tiny little baby. And I would take her into class. She'd be in her little carrier, got the class done. Luckily, it was a really simple GE class. And that was that. So that's why I think that my whole time there was 3 years, because that's when my degree actually was conferred and printed on the certificate. So I did take about maybe a 2-year break. Yeah, about a 2-year break, because I started the master's program when Maggie was 2 years old. And it was, when I think about the master's program, the obvious thing was, oh, it's a master's in business, because that's what I had gotten in my undergraduate. And in full transparency, I applied for a couple of master's program in business and I was not getting accepted. And it was because I didn't have a high enough GPA. And when I look back, it wasn't as strong. It wasn't a 3.8. It wasn't a 3.5. It was maybe a 2.8, a 3.0. Because again, I was working full time and I was going to school full time. And when I was at San Jose State, I had a legit, real like job where I was managing teams. It wasn't just I was waitressing. I was actually like a team manager, traveling and doing a lot of what I'm doing now, but just starting out in my career. And so I was really focused in school, but couldn't give it my full attention because I had to deliver at my job. And it was super important to me because I had my daughter, right? I wanted insurance and I wanted to take care of her and all those great things. And so as I was exploring the master options, I remember that I was part of a women Latina group in Sacramento.
Okay.
And it was fully focused on like women and entrepreneurship and leadership. And that was one thing. I was always very intrigued. I'm like, what more can I do? Like, this can't be it. Like, there has to be more. The college is over now. Like, what more can I do? And they would have monthly breakfasts at the Hyatt there in downtown Sacramento. And when I was there, they brought in a guest speaker. It was Dr. Saul Eisen, who was the head chair of the psychology department at Sonoma State. And he came in to talk about this master's degree in organizational development. And now that I think back, I remember he was so intentional on kind of trying to influence and persuade more Latinas to go into the program because the program was not diverse in any which way. And so he went in that Friday morning to do a presentation. He got my attention because he started talking about, imagine being able to go into a corporation and being in a role where you can influence change or drive organizational impact or be able to resolve conflict, because in any business, the biggest differentiators in any company are its people. But people are complicated. They bring personalities, they bring personal beliefs, they bring lived experiences. And those are often things that really, inhibit businesses from growing. And so by going to study a master's in organizational development, we will teach you how to work with people, how to interact, how to drive change. And I thought, wow, I could do that. And that's when you're the first in your family to go to college. And in my case, I was the only girl and all brothers, and my parents were super young. I was always that person that was advocating on their behalf and, really trying to get them to do things. And I thought, let me figure this one out. I can do that. So, but yet again, Dr. Eisen was so intentional because I remember at the end of that session, he said, please come see me if you're interested in learning more about the program. So I remember going to the back of the area where he was standing, and he gave me a pamphlet and he said, I want you to call me and I'd love for you to come to Sonoma State to have a conversation with me. And I said, okay, I'll think about it. So I went home, and at the time it was just Mauricio and I and my daughter. And I think I mentioned it to Mauricio, and I said, you know what, I think he asked me, like, how was the breakfast this morning? Because he knew that I'd gone to the breakfast. And I said, oh, it was good. But, this man went in and talked about this master's in organizational development. And he knew that the entire time I'd been trying to apply for these MBA programs that weren't going my way. And he said, well, you need to go have a conversation. And I said, do I really have time? Again, this self-doubt, right? Everybody has this self-talk that you doubt yourself. I'm like, I have Maggie, my daughter. I'm too busy with that. I'm working full time. This program is all the way at Sonoma State, which means it's 2 hours away from Sacramento. It's every Wednesday and every Friday and every Saturday for 2 years. Like, do I really have that time commitment? And mind you, at this time, Mauricio had already received his master's in counseling. And I remember when I told him that, he must have seen me already saying, no, I'm not going to do this. And he looked at me and he said, there's no way that the woman I share my life with is not going to have the same level, if not more higher degree than me.
Wow. So
you better figure out. And I remember looking at him thinking okay, here we go. Because he knows if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to move forward. And so that's what really got me to pick up the phone to call Dr. Eisen. I called him. He said, meet me at Sonoma State tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Well, I had my daughter. And so I remember I called my mom. I picked her up thinking it was a casual conversation because Dr. Eisen didn't tell me it was an actual interview for this master's program. I thought I was going just to have a simple conversation. And I show up there. So this is how naive I was, but I leave my mom and Maggie in the hallway because they too, I'll be right back. It's just a quick conversation. 2.5 hours later, I walk out of that room. I'm in there with, I think, 3 other people where they're doing a group, interview, and they're asking scenario questions and they're asking, philosophy and education. And I'm just participating and I'm answering questions that when I come out of the room, I realize it's much later. And I'm thinking, my daughter at this time is 2.
Yeah.
My mom's in the lobby. She has literally like nothing with her. And I walk out and my mom comes up to me, and I thought she was going to come up to me to yell at me, like, what the hell took you so long? So my mom was notorious for like checking me all the time. When she said, Ika, did you know you just finished an interview? Because she made friends with the receptionist of Dr. Eisen, because my mom didn't even have her wallet on her. And she was giving my mom dollar bills to buy my daughter candy from the vending machine, water, just to distract her, because they were out there for so long. And I remember looking at her and say, he just told me like this was an interview. I had no clue. So on the drive home, by the time we got home, there was a voicemail on my answer machine where Dr. Eisen was congratulating me, telling me that I'd been accepted to the master's program, and that classes started on Monday morning. And that's literally how that happened.
So that was a Friday.
That interview was a Friday.
Yeah.
Friday afternoon, we'll get home. I get that news. Monday is when I have to be at
Sonoma
State. And Wednesday, when I go back to Sonoma State, I'm driving there and I feel really nauseated, really sick. I have to pull around the side of the road and throwing up everywhere. Come to find out that weekend that I was pregnant of my son. And so now I'm starting my master's in organizational development, pregnant with my son, a 2-year-old at home, working full time with a determination to finish that first master's.
Oh my goodness.
So it was a journey.
Insane. Wait, so you go for this conversation, and then at some point, does the professor or does the doctor tell you, because Dr. Eisen, you said?
Yes, Dr. Eisen.
Does he say like, all right, this is the interview, or were you like midway through the interview and then you realize like, oh shit, like I'm interviewing for the program?
It was midway. It was midway through the conversation, the questions, because the candidates that were in there knew it was an interview. They went prepared. I had no clue. And so when they started asking questions, I thought, wait a minute. And again, mind you, I knew nobody that had done a master's interview. And the one person that I knew, which was that cousin that I mentioned earlier, I never talked to him about preparing. I didn't even know interviewing was part of getting into a master's program, because I hadn't gotten that far with the applications I had submitted before.
Yeah.
And so midway through, I realized I'm in an interview. And at that point, I was like, all right, I'm just going to keep going. And then it was at the conclusion of that interview where he thanked all of us and said, we'll be making our decisions and letting you all know very shortly. And that's when I knew, like, okay, this was an interview.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. I was able to get it done.
So then, you do the interview, super, super quick turnaround. Like you find out you're in. A few days later, you figure out I'm pregnant. So what was that like, having to, now a 2-year-old, living in Sacramento, going to school in Sonoma, which for the viewers out there, from Sacramento to Sonoma, it's about like an hour and a half, maybe 2-hour drive. And now pregnant as well. On top of working, you were working full time too, right?
Yeah, working full time.
Wow. So this is the incline of professional juggler, y'all. So what was that like?
It was a lot, but it was also so exciting, because what I was learning through the master's, I was like super excited about. So, and again, it's about the village, it's about the support, right? So at home, I had a partner that was all about education and understood the value of being able to go forward through education. That was one part. At home, my parents' home, I had 2 parents where I drove from Sacramento to Vallejo, would drop off my 2-year-old with my mom, and I would continue the next hour to get to Sonoma State. And so that helped me immensely, because I knew that my daughter was with my mom and my dad and my brothers. And for me, I was like, great, she's having her own time bonding with my parents and my brothers and all that great stuff. And then on the way back, because we'd get out of class at 10 p.m., that means I would get to my mom's house at about 11 p.m., put the toddler back in the car, head back to Sacramento, get there at midnight, put her in her bed, and then go to bed and get up the next morning at 6 to, do it all over again. And so really that first year, it was just about, I have to get through. My biggest fear was going into labor before the first year was over. Yeah. Because my due date was May 28th. And the last day of class was May 24th. And so I literally, that first entire year, and then the program was really supportive, because by the time March and April came around, they realized that I was probably one of 2 people that commuted as far as I did to get to the program. my classmates, there was a lot, when you go to your master's program, there's a lot about group projects and things you have to submit. And so and because of the work that we were doing in organizational development, we were doing a lot of consulting things. So we'd have to go do interviews and go work on projects and, go deliver process mapping, that by the time I got to April, I got so big that even my classmates would drive to Sacramento just to help me out. And this is the beauty of surrounding yourself around people that really understand your intent, and they realize I was a team player, and if I could, I would, but at some point I couldn't. So they would go to me. That would help immensely. And then once May came around, I remember a couple of times I even had classes. This was before there wasn't much of video conferencing. So they would just call me in on the phone. They would be there on audio, and they would help me out that way. That last week, I think Mauricio probably drove me onto campus to turn in my final project. And then 2 days later, my son was born. So then I had the summer, I had the summer, which was June and July and August, to get acclimated with my new son, my 3-year-old daughter by that time, and then my newborn. And then that second year was his first year. So now I was dropping off a 3-year-old and a newborn and, feeding the baby. And because I'll say I was breastfeeding my kids and doing it all. I was notorious for, having my manual, breastfeeding contractions and filling and pumping and all those things. So I say that to, those that are out there as moms, it is possible. And whatever you need to do to make it happen, that's your reality and your prerogative. So for me, it was about having my support system with my family, support system with the partner that I had, and then my own will and determination to make it happen.
So you said that when you were listening to the speech of about a year ago or 2 years ago after having your son and also being pregnant throughout the program itself wasn't very diverse. So what was that like, being Latina, a young Latina, pregnant in a master's program with already a child at home? So what was that dynamic like with your classmates or even professors?
The one thing that I'll look back, and this is even true to today, literally till today, is that most folks that I get the opportunity to work with and partner on projects or work on things, and everybody really met someone like me. So, and I think that has always helped in some case, because I've never been shy or bashful about sharing who I am. I talked about my kids. I talked about the fact that I worked full time. I talked about, being Mexican American. And so many people tend to get curious. And I remember in that group, imagine the people that were in that group, they were all about organizational development and change. They were advocates themselves and champions of diversity. And so I think they appreciated the fact that I came from a non-traditional background, and that I brought my full self there. There were others there that had no children, so they had empathy for me, because they would say, I don't know how you do it. We have no kids and you have 2 kids. And then I had others that were classmates that had their kids were empty nesters, right? Their kids were much older. And so they had empathy and remembering wow, I remember my kids were little. So I have the master's program and the friendships that I formed till this day that I have, totally different than the bachelor undergraduate experience. Folks, when you're in your master's degree, they really want to be there. I think they're much more mature. They really care, and they're much more empathetic. So I think if anything, it was fun to share my experience. And even though I was the only one there, I felt welcomed. It was a really, really great experience.
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful thing, because I think that a lot of the times, you hear this all the time also on social media, or just friends that I have too that also have kids, and they say, I can't do it. I have my kid, and my kid that's a full-time job already. Being a mom is a full-time job. And then not just with one, but with 2, later on your 3rd, and then also trying to be a student, trying to work, trying to be a wife, also having some self-care too. That's a lot to do. So I know for instance, when we first had this conversation a while back, when we were talking about some experiences and stuff, or even just you discussing about your jobs too, I was like, oh my gosh, how did she do it? You have your own home, all these other things. And on top of that, you still make time for being an amazing employee, being an amazing parent, being, a wife, and making sure that you have time for yourself as well. So we talked about your undergrad experience and then your first master's experience. So now you finally were able to go and get your MBA, right? at?
Yes, because fathom that. You know, when I finished my first master's in organizational development, I had a 4.0. You know, I had a 4.0, and when the MBA piece came around, it was not for this desire to go get an MBA. I was actually working at the time. That's when I started working at Cisco, and I was working in the finance organization. And their finance team, they had these teach to learn credits that they wanted you to do seminars like once a quarter, just to continue to freshen up on your skills and whatnot. And when I saw the requirements, I remember telling my boss, I'm not interested in taking like a seminar class. Like if I'm going to be sitting in a classroom learning, why couldn't I just go, you know, get an MBA or go get, you know, something that's going to help from a business perspective.
Yeah.
And this is one of those bosses where, again, she was super supportive when I was first working with her, when I was okay being an analyst, working 8 to 5 and, you know, just being in my cubicle. But the minute that I expressed interest in going back to school to get an MBA, she was not happy about it. She made it virtually impossible. Oh, wow. I remember at that point, I didn't have even a laptop. You know, I had a desktop. I requested if I can have a laptop so that I could actually go back to school. And because my thing was, I'll be available. Even if I'm in the classroom, you can ping me, you can send me what you need, and I'll multitask. While I'm in class, I'll answer emails, I'll do what's needed, because I was doing a lot of auditing work for the finance department. And she was adamant that she needed me in the office, and it was, you know, Monday through Friday, you know, 8 to 5 role. What she didn't count on was that I'm a very relationship oriented person. And so the people who actually interviewed me for that role were the CFO of the organization and a few leaders who I believe the CFO, I thought she was an amazing, like badass leader, you know, in high tech. And so she would walk the floor and I would always make it a point to say hello. I would ask for 15 minutes just to do like a quick one-on-one. That one time she was walking the halls and just say, hey, Maria, how's everything going? And I said, good, except for, you know, I'm really interested in doing this MBA program. And I've applied and I've been accepted, but I'm not getting support to actually participate. And her response was like, what the hell type of thing. Like she was very adamant that I remember she sent an email to my boss saying, we need to get Maria a laptop so she can participate in this program. And I remember at that time, my boss even said, oh yeah, we have a couple of used laptops that she can use. Not sure if they'll work well. And the CFO saying, we can afford to buy a new one. Please secure her a new one. Wow. And she'll be taking her classes. And she does not need to come into the office, because I had even offered the MBA program. The classes were every Friday from 3 to 9 and every Saturday from 8 to 5, straight for 18 months, no break. It wasn't like a traditional school year. It was 18 months straight. And I was, again, always trying to compensate, because I was thinking, oh, I should be lucky that they gave me an opportunity to go get my MBA, not realizing that me actually being in the MBA was more beneficial to the company and to my boss. Yeah. Not just, I wasn't the only one getting value. They were also getting value. And so at that time, I was like, I'll come in at 5 a.m., you know, I'll do my work, I'll leave here at 2:30, and I'll still take my laptop and I'll be on call for whatever's needed. And the CFO was like, yeah, no, you come in when you usually come in. Because again, dropping off the kids, at this time I had 2 kids, dropping up the kids at daycare, I'd go in the office at 8:30, and then about 2 o'clock I would leave, go to the classroom. And I did as I said. I would take my laptop, and if things were to come up, I would answer them. But it was Friday afternoon. For the most part, it was pretty quiet. Yeah. So I did that for the program, and it's thanks to that executive, I would say sponsor. Until this day, she is the CFO, EVP at Zoom. We still are in contact. She knows very well that it's thanks to her that I got the MBA. I consider her one of those sponsors of mine. And those are stories that you never forget and that you continue to kind of share to really talk about people's character, because what she did there just demonstrates who she is and what she stands for. Yeah. And then I graduated that program 7 months pregnant of my third kid and my second son. So the joke in the family is every time I went back for a degree, I brought a kid along. So yeah, that was also a journey.
Wow. That's so interesting too, that like you always hear managers, you know, they'll say, yeah, I'm here to support you. But then when it comes down to you actually wanting to do something, then they're like, well, you know, I don't know if we're going to be able to make that happen. And that's so great that the CFO was able to make that happen for you and was your advocate at that point, because, you know, it seemed like for your other boss, she really didn't want you to get that. So
yeah, not at all. Not at all.
So, for the listeners out there who might be in the same situation as Maria was, that you are pregnant, going through it, or you already have your kids, your family set, but you are still wanting to go back to college, Maria's living proof that it's possible. Every year she had, every time that she was going back to school, she had another child. So, where did you find the motivation to just keep going? Because I don't have any kids, but I hear a lot of people say, I'm so exhausted all the time, even through pregnancy, afterwards too, with, the toddler stage, the terrible 2 stages. How did you find that motivation? Because that's a lot, but being a student and a mom.
It was, but I think for me, because I was already so down far the path, I got my first master's, I had my 2 kids. I really always wanted this MBA. And so when that opportunity, came to be, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to finish this. That in my mind, me conciliaba of just saying, what if I could do it now when they're little, they're not going to remember that I was studying all the time or that I was doing group projects because they won't know. And so that's what really kept me going. So I think the longer I take, they're going to grow up and then it's going to be much harder. And I'm so glad I did, because even as my kids now are grown, they're now 20, 17, and 13. And I think they need me more now than when they were smaller, right? And so now I have the opportunity to choose where I spend my time. And yes, I'm busy being the CEO of Inspirame. I'm busy working in the tech industry still now. I have a nonprofit. We volunteer at a radio station. We're constantly mentoring students. But at the same time, I know that I'm exposing my kids to what's possible, that when you really are aligned to your passion and really what you want to do in this lifetime, you kind of find that energy. And right now I'm just super intentional, like with my time, where I spend it, with who I spend it, and how I can ensure that I can help others live their dream. And I think in some ways I probably always did that even as I was younger, because for as much as I dedicated in school, I spent just as much time with my family. And when I say my family, I mean both my parents, my brothers, obviously my kids, because I had my kids. That family has always been a core essence of that. So I think that's for anyone that's listening to our conversation today, is just find out, what is most important to you. And the most precious commodity we have is time. Just make sure that every second is accounted for in a way that you really can feel proud about what you've done, because whatever you spend your time doing when you're in your 20s and 30s, believe me, you will receive lots of benefits for that as you continue in your career.
Yeah. And so I know you mentioned your mom a lot and how your mom was your main driver of you continuing your education. Is there something that, and I asked Mauricio this too in his interview, that when he talked about his obstacles that he had to overcome as well, could you say that you're proud of yourself for what you've accomplished academically, professionally, and then knowing that you made your mom proud as well? So is that something that you could tell yourself that you're proud?
I can. And, unfortunately, I lost my mom very unexpectedly 2 years ago. And some of the most sweeter moments when I think back and just remember her time on this earth were times that she got to hear from many others that work with me, tell her, you must be proud. And my mom would say, oh, I'm so proud. And I remember thinking of those moments of like, okay, Mom, but just being able to hear that from her, not everybody gets that gift. I really, and I feel it even more so now that I think about if she could see, and I know she can see from where she's at, but if she could be on this earth and seeing how much we've grown in Inspirame, how much we're doing to help so many others that were in her shoes or were in my shoes even, right, and in our community, that she would be, so immensely proud. Like she would have some high expectations of, being able to be on these interviews and doing these great things. And so from that perspective, I love being able just to even honor my mom through me sharing my story. Yeah. And I'm constantly now being asked about my story, and I get the blessings to be able to talk about her. Equally, my dad as well. Like they were a yin and a yang. My dad to this day is such a huge part of my life, and more of the family and the moral aspect and being a good person. My mom brought the Chicana fire, like, don't let a man tell you what to do. You earn your own money. You go become your own boss, because she knew what that was and what it meant, because she knew what it felt like not to be. So I think I've had that privilege of having both of those worlds that's really helped me get to where I am today. So I would say, yes, absolutely.
Good. And that's so important, because I know I think too that a lot of Latinas, a lot of the times, or Mexican Americans, they struggle being able to say, like, I'm proud of myself, and that's something that through generational trauma that a lot of people have to overcome as well. So it's really, to me, inspiring to hear other Latinos or just other minority groups be able to tell themselves that they're proud of themselves, because that's something that a lot of the times we're not privileged to be able to say that, because either through traumas or through other experiences that we go through, especially within the Mexican community or Latino community as a whole, there's a lot of things that we have to kind of deal with internally that a lot of people don't know. So something as simple as saying I'm proud of myself, it's difficult for some people to say. So it makes me happy that you're able to say that as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thanks for asking that question, because it's super important. One thing that I hear often from, from many Latinas that will reach out, or just even those in our community, just on that importance of just recognizing that piece and making sure that you don't lose the essence of who you are, or, and Mauricio talk, like, don't become a sellout, right? Yeah. And I think that's probably the thing that I'm most proudest, is that where I'm standing now and all that I've lived and what I've been able to accomplish, what I've been able to do, and what we're doing with Inspirame is so aligned to who I am as a person. Like, and if people were to describe Maria, that my biggest fear is always, like, they would describe me as, like, some kind of sellout of some sort. It's like, yeah, no, that's not. And that's what I'm so proud about. People would ask me all the time as well, like, what's the biggest thing for your kids? Like, participating and going to private schools and going to the best universities. And I'm like, no, for me, for my kids, is them knowing that they're Mexican American, that their grandparents sacrificed so much to come to this country, and they stand true to who they are, and being able to see that with my own eyes as my kids now are 20, 17, and 13, that they are super proud about being Mexicanos. They're super aware of the privilege that they have because their parents went to college, that all of that is what really gives me the sense of pride, because no todos, no todos. I know many Latinas that, that are same years of career in mine that will tell me that I'm the only Latina they know in an executive status at a company. And I think, gosh, I know many, because I am intentionally connected. It's really important to ensure that people know que soy mexicana, que soy Latina. And I think that's just a personal choice. And so it's a long-winded answer just to say, like, a lot of the whole pride thing is around making sure that you feel like the whole self. And it goes back to who I was growing up, right? Family was so important to me. It's still important to me today. The teams I work with, super important. They feel that I support them, that they matter, that we are one part of one big team. And I think it's just part of just how I get work done, and how I've grown, the network that I've grown with time.
Yeah. So going back to being an exec in high tech, and talking more about Inspirame, what is that like? Like, let's talk about corporate America. So especially as a young Latina yourself, or just a woman of color as well, for all of us out there, what's that like being in corporate America? Because you always hear these things of, like, oh, corporate America this. And at least for me, when I think of corporate America, I think white, tall, blue suit, black suit, man. And then it wasn't until I met you a few years ago that I was like, oh shit, like, corporate America also means Latina, so corporate America looks so different now. So what is that like for you? What was that like working at Cisco? And then for those of y'all who haven't been to Maria's LinkedIn page, go check it out. But Visa and Google, and being a manager or director of those companies.
Yeah. I can just say it's been a fun ride. The last few years, I've been the vice president of many of these organizations that you mentioned. Comes with a lot of responsibility, but it also, similar to my early days and being in college, it gives me the opportunity to educate and introduce so many of my peers on who I am and what I stand for. And again, they've never met anyone like me. So being able to have these conversations, in Japan or in London or in Mexico or fill in the blank. It doesn't change who I am, but it gives me the opportunity to expand the horizon around what's possible. And I find myself in that situation. I tell folks, even this morning, I was doing our radio show in the morning, and I told folks, I feel so privileged because I feel like I'm a broker in life, where I broker experiences, I broker relationships, I get the opportunity to expose students, to expose their parents, to expose executives who are very privileged, and they themselves will say they're very privileged and they just don't understand, to many others in the community in between, with what's possible if we all come together to help give other people opportunities. And I learned that skill by spending 20 years in corporate America and still being very involved today in corporate America. It's what really sets us apart. And I think what's really allowed me to thrive in corporate America is how I treat people, how I don't take anything for granted. People would always tell me they love traveling with me because anytime I would travel to a new country, oh my gosh, I would experience it and be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Because for me, it was amazing, right? Like being able to, the first time going to India, the first time going to China, going to Singapore, going to Japan. And I would travel many times with people that had been to those countries 10, 15, 20 times over. And they would say they had never experienced a country the way they experienced it when they traveled with me, because they took things for granted, right? They'd always go through the same airport. They'd always get at the same places. And similar when others are participating in things that I invite them to, and the way I share the stories of what we do and the cultural components, that's what really sets us apart. And so for me, not easy. It's super political, all the things that you expect in the corporate perspective, but it's how do you carry yourself? How do people speak about who you are and what you stand for? How do you treat people? And how do you make people feel through your interactions? Which, when I think about what I've done my entire life, it's very similar to that, of just my personal upbringing, to surviving in college, to making the transition into corporate America. Now that I've been there this long, it's more like, how do I guide the next generation? How do I educate my peers? And when I say my peers now are CEOs and presidents and, and vice presidents of organizations. Even at that level, they need guidance. They need a safe space to talk, and they want to do better. And I feel so privileged to be able to be in a position to be able to provide that guidance or that inspiration or that, hey, let's go have a conversation. Let me tell you how that landed. And my brothers will tell you that the one thing that they always tell me is that I'm super metiche. They'd always say, like, don't get involved, sister. You're always getting involved. And now I tell them, like, I don't get it. I get asked now. Like, I don't get involved anymore. Like, I get calls and I get like, hey, do you mind coming to say a few words here? Do you mind sitting on this panel? Do you mind giving us this? And they just shake their head and they're like, they have no clue. I'm like, no, you have no clue that I actually know what I'm talking about and people want to hear from me. So I say that all to say that, was it hard? Yes. Did I learn a lot? Yes. Have I grown? Tenfold. Like, just the insights of being able to say, like, I know what conversations happen in corporate America. I know, like my dad would say, yo sé cómo corre el agua, cómo corre el corriente. It's a different world, but man, oh man, can I dabble in that world by dabbling in nonprofits, by dabbling in a startup world, by dabbling in the community, or finding me, at a Ballet conference and, being there for my kids. Like, you wouldn't know the difference because you'd get the same Maria no matter where you go.
Yes. And that's true. I've seen her outside of a business element or a work element, and she's the same person, y'all. So it's very, very true. And so, tying that to Inspirame, is that kind of what motivated yourself and Mauricio to create Inspirame? Because what support is needed out there to help minority groups or to help individuals be able to achieve academic greatness. Is that kind of like how Inspirame came about, or how was that?
Yeah, so Inspirame came about maybe about 10 years ago, and just the concept and the idea, obviously Mauricio just being the expert in his field in education and realizing that he spent so much time advocating for students and knowing that Many just didn't have the support system at home or didn't have the support in general. And he would come home often just saying like, gosh, I saw these amazing students and I just hope they can make it through. Like, it's really hard to get appointments with me and they can't come see me once a week to kind of, give them a little tune-up and really ensure that they have what they need to keep going in their educational piece. And, we've always been good about communicating and expressing like, how was your day? What did you do? And so he got as much insights into corporate America as much as insights I had in education, that I got to the point of, what you're sharing, there's so many similar stories. There has to be a way that you can actually help more students at scale. Mm-hmm. And that was the beginning of, let's do that. So we started with this idea of Inspirame, of just creating like podcasts and really kind of getting information going. And that was about 10 years ago, but it didn't really go anywhere. It was just more so helping students. And we helped many students through that. And the beautiful part about doing that is now here we are, 10 years ago, many of those students are now general managers of restaurants or,
Wow.
they're real estate agents. So people have moved forward that we look at each other, we're like, oh my gosh, we do help people. Like, we have helped many people, even if it's a little bit, but we've helped people. And so working at Cisco, again, I got to work with amazing engineers and product managers and data analysts. That I had two coworkers that I work with there that reached out and said, we need to work on a project together. And I remember telling them, what more? We have so many projects going. And this was after hours. The actual employee that had brought this idea to me was no longer even working at Cisco. They were working at a new company, but they heard that I was in town because I was in San Jose that week. And he said, let's have a chat. And I said, what are you thinking? Like, and me just kidding around, thinking of a startup or what? He goes, yeah, actually a startup. And I said, okay. So I remember telling Mauricio, he's thinking about a startup. Let me see what he's talking about. But if he really wants to do something, we need to bring Inspirame to like the next level of what's possible here. Mm-hmm. And so to make a long story short, that was the beginning of it, because this individual wanted to start something around mentoring because he saw all the work that I was doing to create mentorship across Cisco. Mm-hmm. And he saw that there was so much value there that he said, let's create a mentoring platform. And I said, let's take it one step further. There's a real big opportunity in what we can do to kind of democratize education. Let's start there. But oh, by the way, tomorrow I'm heading to Ireland for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So if you really want to do this, you have to meet me at the airport so that you can meet with Mauricio as well, and we can sketch out what's possible. And he showed up with, another business partner. And that afternoon, we sketched out on the napkin there at the SFO airport. Wow. And shook hands and said, we're going to work on this. And mind you, these two partners have no understanding. I mean, they have the engineering chops and they have the product management chops. Mm-hmm. But that's it. Mauricio brings the educational piece and I bring the people element and the strategic element and the visionary element. Yeah. And that was the beginning of Inspirame. The first year and a half, it evolved many times because we were very adamant of not giving up. Because I can tell you that many folks didn't like the name Inspirame. They didn't like the name Deco Guide. They thought that, we were being too focused on helping the underserved, that we should make this more broad and create a name that's more gimmicky. And Mauricio were like, no, like we're not. This is not what we know we need. We know what we're building is the right thing. Yeah. And that was the beginning of it where, 2 years ago, we actually started getting some mock-ups and started building the bones of what we have today. And here we are today that in January, I stepped in to be CEO, and we've been having conversations left and right with potential customers and really clear on the mission, which is to help end generational poverty through educational attainment to improve livelihoods. And our product is there to serve anyone from 13 to 101. But there is no one that cannot benefit, even if it's just upskilling or reskilling, or even if you're just a parent or someone that loves someone that you want to help them understand how they can get to and through higher education the most affordable way. That's what we're building because we know the need is there. And there have been many that have tried, but those that have tried from the element of let's make $1 by creating these CRM tools, not because they have the lived experience, nor because they desire to actually not only bring along the educational piece, but bring along the motivational and inspirational piece to help heal the trauma that truly exists in our education system, especially when it comes to our first generation, low income or underserved communities.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I didn't know it was a 10-year in the making. I know I knew about like within the past few years, you and Mauricio had been speaking about it, but then the 10 years, do y'all still have that napkin that you...
Oh my gosh. We have the napkin. We have lots of papers that we would write. We'll have to pull those out, someday very soon, so we can share it with the folks. But yeah, it's been a ride.
Yeah, definitely. And keep those stuff, because when someone comes knocking on your door to make a movie, you can hand it to them. And then that's going to be like the key element of your movie, the napkin. Wow.
I'm looking forward to it. Yes.
So am I. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Maria. Your story is truly, truly inspiring. And I think that, discussing about the platform of Teco is so inspiring for all of us to hear about what Teco really is. And I'm glad that, the viewers out there can hear what it is straight from the CEO and the co-founder. So thank you for being with us, as I mentioned. So is there any last things that you want to say to our viewers, or to any other Latinas aspiring to work in high tech, or just any advice you can give to anyone out there?
Yeah, I would just say you're all needed. So whoever's listening to our conversation here, we need you to be at the table. It gets very lonely and it's very tiring. And so please do what you can to ensure that you can become the next person working in corporate America or in the tech sector or wherever you are. Just be your amazing self, full authentic self, and let Teco Guide help you get there. There is no shame in asking for help and asking questions and really ensuring that you have someone in your back pocket that can support you. And just know that as long as you put your mind to it, the rest will take care of itself. But it does require resiliency, and it does require some grit, and it does require some desire to also, have some sacrifices from time to time, right? I can't tell you the number of quinceañeras and bodas and everything in between that I missed out on, but the family knows why. And now I'm in a position where I can participate whenever, I'm able to participate. The other thing that I'll share as well is that no dream should be left wondering. And I say that because folks have said, oh my gosh, you did this startup. What if you lose all that time and all that money? And I'm like, well, then I write a book about the fact that I at least tried. I try to do my part, what I learned, because I've learned a lot through this journey, and that'll be the path. But I know that my time on this earth should be not in vain, but it should be in purpose.
Yes.
And that's what I'm fully focused on. So that's my desire for everyone that's listening here. Follow your heart and line on your purpose, but know that we all need skills. We all need that safe space, and we all need to be able to support one another. And that's what Inspirame is all about. And we look forward to being able to be on your journey and seeing you at graduation.
Yes, thank you. And thank you everyone who's listening out there. Don't forget to download our free Teco Guide app, where we will show you the quickest, most affordable way possible to earn your certificates and degrees. And like Maria said, we'll see you at our next student's graduation. Thanks so much, Maria.
Gracias. Thank you, Karina.
Good night.
Thank you for tuning into Teco Guide, the app focused on bringing you tools and content to help you make better decisions about school, life, and career. We hope this episode has inspired you to pursue and excel in your own educational and career journey. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share.